evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Marilyn Flores, the president of San Jose City College. Dr. Flores is a distinguished educational leader with more than 25 years of service in the California community college system. Most recently, she served as superintendent and president of Río Hondo College, and she has also held leadership roles at Santa Ana College, Santiago Canyon College, Las Positas College, and Riverside City College. She is a proud first-generation college graduate and second language learner. Dr. Flores has dedicated her career to advancing access, equity, student success, and community engagement. She has been recognized as an Educator of the Year at the Inland Empire Hispanic Image Awards, and is also a Wheelhouse Fellow from UC Davis. Dr. Flores holds a PhD from UC Riverside, a master's degree from UCLA, and a bachelor's degree from UC Riverside. Please join me in welcoming Dr.
Stand that way and use my arms. I don't know how we're doing that. Oh, hold on. So thank you so much for having me here. I know that I was asked to just come and introduce myself, a little bit about my experience and my background, and then highlight some of the reasons why it's so critical that I'm here with you in unity to advance our community in education and access. So just briefly a little bit about myself. My mom is originally from this little town called El Grullo, which is in Limon, Jalisco. She was born there. She went up until like the 3rd grade, and then was basically worked doing laundry and all that stuff. And a lot of things I'm saying is probably similar to some of your background experiences. My father was born in Ensenada. He went up to about 6th grade, and from my understanding, he was a bank teller in Tijuana. They actually met in Tijuana. My mom was a seamstress there, and she was living with my aunt at the time. And so they met there. They had 2 children before me that were both born in Tijuana, and then I was the actual first U.S. citizen born as she ran across the border, and I was born in Chula Juana, which is called Chula Vista. We call it Chula Juana because it gives you the distance, it's right there. So soon thereafter, they moved over to San Pedro, which is Southern California. And there, they both worked at a factory. And it was interesting because they both worked at Star Tuna factory on Terminal Island with a 3rd grade, 6th grade education, and we were able to raise 3 children. What was interesting is that we were low income, but I will tell you that you would never know if we could be ate. So one of the lessons that I always tell students is I love seafood, and I know every single type of seafood, and people think, wow, you must have been raised with money. But it was everything that they caught in the nets for the tuna that they would give the employees. And so I know every single fish, and I have a really good palate because of that, and I think it was a blessing. My dad passed away when I was about 9 years old, and so my mom really did raise us on her own. I'm the youngest of 3. The oldest one went into the military straight from high school to the Army. And then the middle daughter was pregnant about 16 years of age, dropped out. And then later on, she returned to get her GED. And then my brother came back from the military, took a GI Bill, and then went into law enforcement. And I joke around because I say I have law enforcement both inside institutions and outside institutions and family. So all walks of life, especially in the area that I grew up in San Pedro. So fast forward, I was the first to go to college straight from high school, not knowing the pathway, which way to go. I just kind of sort of did it by accident. And as I shared with the students, it was just one of those things of asking questions, as a lot of us do. And I would say, do not fear to ask those questions, or else you're not going to figure out how to navigate the system. So did my bachelor's, did my master's, obtained my teaching credential, and my first job, believe it or not, was a 5th grade bilingual teacher. And I did that during a time where bilingual education was getting pretty much eradicated. Literally the first year that I started in bilingual education is when they went into the classrooms and started removing all the primary language textbooks. And I'll never forget it because early on, somebody said I'm the biggest rubber rouser. I literally secretly put away some of them, let's just say, and would use them, would make copies and still continue to use them because I knew that everything that I studied about immersion and dual immersion, not necessarily sink or swim, worked. And I knew that if you were bilingual, your cognition levels are higher, and that the ability to be a language broker leads to highly more successful students. So I did that, became tenured and so forth, and then I got tapped to be an administrator. And in my journey to becoming an administrator is how I found my passion with the California Community College system. Ironically, in order to be an administrator, for those who are in K-12, you have to get your Tier 1 and Tier 2 administrative credentials. So I went back to school to apply for that. And they told me, you know, you can apply for a fellowship. You know, we have a full fellowship that you can apply to your Tier 1 credential, and you can get your PhD as well. I don't know what this is, right? I heard the word ship. In my head, scholarship, right? So I said, sure. So I remember applying, and this was with the Hispanic Border Leadership Institute and with the Cal Foundation. And they had come together and they wanted to fund an entire cohort of Hispanic students to finish a PhD in 3 years. They wanted to prove that if you removed any financial barriers away, that you could get the Hispanic students to complete in 3 years, mind you. If any of you know, PhDs do not take 3 years. They take about 6 to 10 years, but this was what they proposed. And so it was called Hispanic Border Leadership Institute because they partnered up with 4 states. So it was California, New Mexico, Texas, and Arizona. And so we had cohorts in each of the states. So I remember that that was, I would say, the first time that I truly felt who I was and my identity. Because I had never experienced such discrimination, such judgment as I had in that program because of my background, my experience, my push. During that time, we had all these, anti-immigration policies, Prop 107 and 127, all of them that were coming out, and all my research work was based on that. And I'll tell you, it was a struggle because I had to abandon that because I wanted, at the end of the day, to get that piece of paper so that I could make a difference because it wasn't accepted research. I had never experienced that. Every ism is what, sorry about that. And so fast forward, I finished my doctorate, and that's when I got picked up by the California Community College system. And since that day, I have never left the system. So I have about 30 years in the educational system, and the majority have been in the California Community College system because of my passion and belief of what we do for our community. So fast forward, I worked my way up in different positions with the same premises, that I was going to do my job to the best of my ability to make sure that we focused on inclusion, accessibility, and social justice through education. Because that is the only way that I got to this place was through education. And so I had some scars because it wasn't always what the mission or the vision of leadership was. And sometimes, and I always tell our Latino and our students of color, we need to stick together. We need to stick together and uplift each other. And unfortunately, far too many times, we push each other down to move up. And this is something that I always tell our youth that we have to really uplift because some of the struggles that I've had have been by our own people. And that hurts. And so fast forward, I continue to have upward mobility. I've had a good network of professionals, partnership with different organizations, and something that I was sharing with the students at the graduation was that I am your first Latina president at San Jose City College, and it's more than 100 years history. That's huge. It's great when I found out. So honestly, I didn't even realize that. I had made an assumption that how could I be the first Latina with an institution that has more than 50% Latino? I was pretty shocked when the chancellor told me, by the way, did you know? And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's a huge weight on me, and that just adds another layer that I need to make sure that, I talk that and I speak that, because we need to get better at this, right? So I come to you with my philosophy that my responsibility is to bring the college to the community and bring the community to the college. And so as I heard all your titles and your organizations, please know that this is me reaching out to you as well to figure out ways in which we can continue to partner, to make sure that we are uplifting our community through social or economic mobility by bringing education to them or bringing them to the college. And by this I mean, if you have business opportunities for our students to do internships, if you have a need in your business for reskilling, we can bring courses to you. If you have an opportunity to create partnerships for fundraising and for philanthropy to empower our students. We have a huge, underrepresented population that has a lot of food insecurity, housing insecurities, and if it wasn't for a lot of the partnerships that we have, I mean, I look right now, we have Martha's Kitchen next door. If it wasn't for them, some of our students would not have a meal. So we're really embedded within the community, but I think we can do even better. We have excellent partnerships right now, and it just gives me pride to be the president there because we're doing amazing work, but there's so much more opportunity out there by making these connections and making sure that we're uplifting each other, working together, and making sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. So I want to thank you for having me here. And if you ever need me to come out and update you on anything, right now I'm 4 months old at the college. It feels like 5 years, I keep saying that. We're undergoing a lot of changes, but I will tell you that we're really taking a hard look at our outcomes, knowing that we can do better. So we are engaging in the next 3 to 5 years in a lot of strategic, intentional planning to make sure that we are offering viable courses that do lead to employment for our students, that we are strategically, again, and with intentionality, providing advisement to our students so that they can succeed, that they are pathways that mean something, that they are not, ending with a degree that leads to no employment, and that we're being responsive to industry. Right now, with everything that's switching so quickly, we know that our student population is going to look different. It's not going to be straight from high school. It's going to be individuals that are potentially being laid off and have to come to get reskilled. And we're there. I was saying that day, we had a graduation. Our youngest graduate was 13 years old, and our oldest was 78. And that just tells you the range of where we are when we're ready to meet our community where they're at. And if we don't have a course, we will create a course because we have that capacity. And these are courses that are industry demand based or courses that are articulated with Cal States or the UCs or the privates. And we can, the process takes a while, but we can do that. And so I want to thank you for letting me be here, and it's an open invitation. And I want to thank the 4 district supporters that are here. It takes a team, it takes a village, and I look forward to ongoing partnerships to make sure that we build up and elevate our community.
You have time for questions? Do we have any questions?
Dr. Flores, thank you for fighting for our immigrant communities through education. And that's how we leverage, the living costs here by education. I know that AI is coming and none of us are going to escape it. The question is, how do we leverage AI in order to upskill, reskill our workforce? My understanding of AI is going to create about 170 million jobs throughout the world. And if we don't leverage it and we don't get that piece of the pie, other city, county, state, or country will leverage it. And what is the city college doing in order for us to educate our younger generation, including our older adults as well, to leverage AI to upskill or reskill?
So it's interesting having a lot of conversations lately on that topic. And one thing is, yes, AI is going to create a lot of jobs, but there's tons of people that are losing jobs because of AI. And so 2 things. One is I was literally just having a conversation with our marketing department that we need to also look at what jobs require that human touch that will never ever be replaced by AI. And typically it's your essential workforce, your healthcare, law enforcement, daycare, child care services, that has to have that human touch. So we're looking at ways, dental hygienist programs, I'm just talking about programs that we offer, right? Construction technology, those jobs are not going away, HVAC's not going away. So how do we leverage those programs and add additional courses, add additional entry points, add opportunities for reskilling for those that don't have space for AI or cannot reskill to that, right? So that's one aspect. The other is, what are we doing right now with AI? So we actually have a faculty member who literally today said, can I sit down and meet with you for about 30 minutes to let you know he has a seat at the table with the California Community College system about what we're doing with AI. So we are looking at programmatically how do we infuse AI within and across all courses so that our students are prepared of the use of AI within their field of study. The other is, and I'm looking over both things, I mentioned to both of them, we need to educate our students on how to responsibly use AI. We need to be very transparent about that, because if not, they're going to fail miserably at how to responsibly use AI. Because if you recall, back in the days when Google came out, when people were doing Google searches, the information is only as good as what exists. And back in the days when Google came out and all of these big search engines came out, there was a lot of bias in the data. There was a lot of untruths. There was a lot of things that were not correct. And now here comes the second wave. So if we're going to be talking about AI enhancing it, we also need to educate our students and our staff, everybody across the board, about how do you responsibly use AI so that it doesn't become a crutch. The typical things we're also looking at, you saw in the news, Deanza has like an AI certificate that they built. We're looking more at across the level. How is industry using it so that we can infuse it within those programs and studies. So if let's say it is HVAC, maybe they are using it for something. How do we incorporate that aspect? So it's across the board, and it's not like you have to stick right now in AI. You really need to be able to use AI in your industry, your work environment, your classroom environment, classify, even my own assistant, I was like, hey, you guys have to take those minutes, data dump them into AI, and it just saves you so much time. But again, how do you do that responsibly, right? The other is we have to be very, very careful in the California Community College system because you cannot use AI and input any of our information that's student protected. And I'll give you an example. We had you should probably something as well. You have some colleges that were using the AI feature to say the names of the students. It did go well, but in addition to that, there was one institution where the chancellor, I believe, went up there and gave a speech and just said, just so you know, that was all created by AI. And the person had mentioned individuals by student names, and they had said this person is undocumented and came, blah, blah, blah. So now there's this added layer of fear, right? What information is put into these systems is now out there. So we have a large population of undocumented students, our affinity groups, LGBT communities, people that are scared, genuinely scared, as they should be, because they're under attack. They're worried about what are we putting into AI. Again, responsible use. So those are the types of things that we're doing with faculty to make sure that whatever you're putting in there, whatever you're using AI for, you need to know it now becomes public and the realm of everything. So there's a lot of aspects to that that we really need to enhance it, but we need to do it responsibly, intentionally, and we need to protect our students. I know that was long.
No, it's a great answer, thank you.
Enrique, please.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's a think tank that has looked at what we learned from COVID, and given that CDC has, really downsized, is there a way for us to prepare the workforce for a potential future pandemic so that we learned a lot there also, that we don't repeat the same mistakes of folks just losing their job within, a day and couldn't go back to work and then couldn't figure it out at that point. So maybe infusing that in future planning.
Yeah, and I think, I really want to say, I think the California Community College did a really good job at the systems and about me. I still remember the day of having to pivot and everything had to go online, having to protect and PPEs. And I was in that institution where we had a vaccination on site. I mean, we had lines and lines, and we became a pod, and we worked with law enforcement. And, we have the ability to pivot, and I think in a good manner, that when situations come up like that, we typically will have a solution. I think right now, though, we're still dealing with the aftermath. One of the examples was a lot of, especially in this region, a lot of childcare centers shut down. And now we have a shortage in childcare services. So we're responding to that in the sense that we have partnerships with agencies to do certificates for early child development so that we can open up more slots, open up more spaces because of the shortage. So it's almost like we're having to pivot back and forth about post-pandemic, but also be aware that something else could happen. And I'll give you an example of something that what we're having right now, the fraud and the cybersecurity breaches that we have fraudulent students. That's a huge thing. We're having to pivot our processes and systems. Just the other day, our major platform for our students to go online was hacked across the entire state of California. We had to pivot again. We were already talking about what other formats can we continue to teach our students. So, I mean, because we're such a large system, and if we continue to have these across the state conversations, we come up with solutions. And that's why, again, my passion for the California Community College system, I can't even ever leave it behind, because we will always meet the demand where it's at. And that's through the support of the state.
Thank you. While the mic's still back there, we'll come back to you.
Welcome to San Jose, Dr. Flores. It sounds like you've had a lot of experience in a lot of colleges. One of the, I hope you can tell us a little bit about, from looking at programs, because one of the most fundamental issues that I've worked with and others is the kids are very stereotyping. The students at community college are everything from 40 to 30 to returning moms to young people. And some of them are headed to 4-year BAs, some of them are headed to technical or professions. What are some programs you see that maximizes them getting whatever they get from you and move out, so they don't spend 4 or 5 years floating around, then spend 5 more years floating around somewhere else? Moving them into the different kinds of better work and world that they're going to be part of.
And that's the work that I'm talking about that we're going to be engaging in the next couple of years. We need to be more intentional in the entire district. So what's really, one of the reasons why I accepted this job was because when I met with the chancellor, her vision of making sure that we are one district, one team. Because the college, EBC and SJCC, were almost operating as if they were independent colleges, but we share a lot of students. Some students come take classes at City College, they're pre-nursing courses, but we don't have nursing, so they go to EBC for nursing. So we swirl a lot of students, but there's so many times that we make it very difficult because we don't schedule things the same. So to your point, we're kind of shopping for this class over here and that class over there. And then we're not offering the classes intentionally that's on their pathways. So some of them are sitting around waiting for that class to be offered. And then we find out, well, it hasn't been offered in like 3 years. So that student's sitting there. So we're very much aware of this, and we've been running a lot of data, and we have support from our academic senate, we have support from our unions, which is a great place to be. And we have support from the district office to allow us to engage in this conversation so that we can do exactly what you're saying. Plan students' educational pathways so that they can complete them in a timely manner and ensure that when they complete, there's a viable job out there. Because we also have a lot of old curriculum that's no longer industry standard based. We look at some of our labs, we need to elevate our equipment because when they go into the real workforce, that's not the same equipment. So we're really focusing on an entire overhaul and review of all of our programs. It's going to take a while, but it needs to be done so that we don't have students that have 90 units and then finally transferring, and that comes at a cost to them. So we want to make sure that they're transferring, they need their 60 units, that they complete them and they're transferring. Because otherwise, they're gonna leave at a higher cost. We also wanna make sure that if there's a certificate, that they complete. And a lot of this has to do with having to make sure we have enough counselors, so that students are getting advised, so they're not just guessing, picking, but that we're also responsive, so that what's based on student demand, we then schedule classes, and not just random classes, like, oh, this teacher wants to teach this class, therefore they're gonna get it. Is it on student's pathway? So there's gonna be a lot of intentionality, it takes a lot of work, but having it done at other institutions, it works. And we have very smart, excellent students at our college. But our completion rates are not excellent. We are going to elevate those because it's not that they can't complete because they're not smart enough. They can't complete because our system is not working for them. And that's what we're working on. And the thing that I really appreciate is that we're all having these conversations, and as hard as it is to say we're kind of broken, that's what we need to do, and we're all there. We're all saying we need to fix this. How do we fix this? So I'm really excited about what's to come. It's going to take a lot of work, but like I said, we have buy-in from every single constituency group, and we know it's going to take us a while, but we will increase our completion. We will be able to say how do we impact living wages, and we will be able to respond to the community on what we need. Thank you for that question.
Thank you for being here. My name is Elena Robles, and I've been in education for 55 years. And I taught at City College for quite a long time, too, and interviewed for a long time. My question is, in this climate of political and financial volatility, what do you see coming in as a new person with fresh eyes as your greatest financial challenges for the college for this next 2 years?
You know, we just had, right before I came, we had a deficit that we had to narrow the gap. I can tell you that, knock on wood, the district addressed it, so we're now stable financially. The challenge to that is that when you're stable, you have to maintain stable, and there really is not an opportunity to grow. Because we're basic aid, we have a set budget. We're not funded through the funding formula that allows you to grow. So it becomes that's a challenge. So to give you an example, non-basic aid districts get a per pupil cost, like the K-12s, for every student you have. So it's like $6,000 for one MTS for students, right? So as you grow, you get more money when the state has money for growth. So with us, because we're basic aid, we have a set budget. So we have to maintain with that. So if we want to grow in an area, where are we going to cut? So it's playing this game, a balancing game of where do we want to put our dollars? Because we need to be able to say, you know what, this program is no longer viable, and we need to reinvest it so that we make sure that we have an ROI, return on investment, by having completers and individuals that contribute to the workforce. So that's going to be the challenge, is trying to figure out how do we grow in the right areas without it coming at a higher cost. Those are definitely going to be the challenges for the next 2 or 3 years.
So you see cutting as as your only option?
No, it would be pivoting. It would be restructuring the budget, right? So if there's an area that's not doing so well, that we maintain services in another area, another program area. Yeah. So we won't be cutting because we're based right now. We're already done with the structural deficit that we had, which is great. So we're at the level playing field right now, where if we want to say we want to grow in an area, I need to figure out where is that coming from. But given that, you know, hopefully, if the administration changes, we'll be able to return to the old days where the state was able to give us additional federal dollars and state dollars. And that's our challenge. I will tell you though that even with the federal cuts that we had that were going to impact us at City College, we were able to, through this process of redirecting dollars, individuals like vacancies and so forth, we were able to redirect those dollars to replace the federal funding so that we continue to serve our students that were impacted as the minority serving institution and the HSI. So, you know, hopefully, you know, pray that the presidential election comes to flourish differently to where it supports us getting those federal dollars back and some even some of the state money that we've lost. That will be huge. If that happens, then there's room for growth and opportunity there.
I'm gonna have to cut the questions off because we have another speaker, but if we can be able to stay so they can ask questions later. Thank you. I know